We are currently witnessing one of the greatest economic shifts in human history. As cheap labor progressively becomes obsolete to automation and robotics, China is fighting to hold its grasp on becoming the world's superpower and dominating currency by 2050. And this all started in 1979 when China and the US signed a trade agreement that would change the entire landscape of how US businesses would operate. By the early 2000s, companies like Apple had completely shut down US manufacturing to produce products cheaper in China, as most businesses would follow suit. The advantageous outlook for these US conglomerates led to leaders turning their eyes to loose labor laws and a complete lack of copyright or business protection. This lack of control would slowly start sifting through China's image as major corporate executives like Huawei CFO Meng Wanzhou would get captured in Canada and locked up for her foreign affairs. This went as far as disrupting thousands of small businesses across the US, leading into the 2018 tariff war with China.
We have a tremendous intellectual property theft situation going on, which likewise is hundreds of billions of dollars.
As China saw this as a practice of success to their economy, it was time for stiff measures, leading to a large change in how China would operate with the US. And just as the air started to clear, something unpredictable and cataclysmic happened in December of 2019. A new virus started showing up in the Wuhan province of China as leaders desperately tried to take control of the situation and locked down the city, along with preventing media from stirring the story, causing hysteria. These measures failed. The entire world would go on lockdown as China lost control of the pandemic, leading to global shutdowns. No one wanted to blame China, but as they tried to cover up and mitigate the story with the World Health Organization, holes started appearing in their facts that led to conspiracies and questions around the World Health Organization's practices and their duties to protect the world from such a pandemic.
We have therefore made the assessment that COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic. Pandemic is not a word to use lightly.
Instructing my administration to halt funding of the World Health Organization while a review is conducted to assess the World Health Organization's role in severely mismanaging and covering up the spread of the coronavirus.
By the time the World Health Organization declared a global health crisis, it was already too late. What does this mean for China? Well, the globe tries to control the pandemic. Companies are furthering plans to mitigate their risk exposure to China and move their manufacturing facilities elsewhere. This is causing a paradigm shift in amongst Chinese leaders to find future potential, fulfilling their 2050 prophecies of becoming a global powerhouse elsewhere. And I believe China will start focusing their goals on the space race.
Beijing has made no secret of its plans to become a leader in space, and its annual budgets back that up. And all that spending is starting to produce results. Earlier this year, China was the first country to land a probe, the Chang'e 4, on the far side of the moon, a major technological feat. NASA sent accolades, and more such missions are planned.
If you look at what they were saying 10 years ago was going to be done in space in the next 10 years by China, they're pretty much hitting those targets.
More impressive than what China has done so far could be what's up next. Plans include a manned space station launched by 2022. Permanent research stations on the moon are likely to soon follow, and within just the next 10 years, Beijing says it wants Chinese astronauts landing on the lunar surface, walking where only Americans have been before.
They have more people, they have more engineers, they have more scientists. The implication is that if they keep getting better at scale, they're probably going to become the biggest or the leading power at some point. It's just a matter of time.
The Trump administration is aware of that possibility and has set the stage for a new space race. NASA plans to send its own astronauts back to the moon by 2024. By the time China lands people on the moon in the 2030s, NASA is hoping to do the same on Mars. But the big advantage the U.S. might have lies in the private sector. Companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin will play outsized roles if the U.S. is to maintain its technological edge, with an impressive list of accomplishments already. Meanwhile, it was only in 2014 that China opened the space industry to its own private sector. Its companies lag far behind U.S. competition, though they aim to change that.
China's current policies and foundations are very good, so our development will be faster and faster.
Ma Chao is the president of China's first private rocket company. He admits that his company's rocket programs are nowhere near the U.S.'s levels, but he says, just give us some time.
I believe if we continue to invest in R&D, China will combine our power and the power of the state to catch up and surpass the U.S. space industry.
Conventional wisdom is that communism doesn't breed ingenuity and that U.S. capitalistic innovation will always win out. But Beijing is spending billions trying to prove that wrong. Experts generally agree that China's space program does right now lag behind that of the United States, but that the gap is starting to close.
With the landscape of manufacturing becoming automated, China will be forced to find new technological advancements to continue economic growth over the next decade. And with the abundance of valued material in space and the decreasing cost of space travel, I believe that is where their sights will be set. And this will become ever more prominent as we head into the next election cycle in the U.S. And I am confident Donald Trump will base most of his campaign around the growth of future space exploration.
The directive I'm signing today will refocus America's space program on human exploration and discovery. It marks an important step in returning American astronauts to the moon for the first time since 1972 for long-term exploration and use. This time, we will not only plant our flag and leave our footprint, we will establish a foundation for an eventual mission to Mars, and perhaps someday to many worlds beyond. This directive will ensure America's space program once again leads and inspires all of humanity. The pioneer spirit has always defined America, and we're picking that up in many other fields. I think you see that.
As the new era of space will become largely driven by the private sector, political leaders will be focusing incentives to these private companies leading these initiatives. In understanding how these economic powerhouses think and play chess with our future, it is only intelligent to set yourself up for future growth, presuming the pandemic doesn't send the world into a global recession. With the knowledge behind automation and future space exploration, I have been actively investing in companies that are poised to capitalize on this outlook. Companies like Tesla, Google, Virgin Galactic, and many others are well on their way to providing this future.
Question is really how life will be in Earth 20, 30, 50 years from now. Our education, our transport. How do you see it?
Well, I think this is one of those things that's quite difficult to predict. When you think of, say, the first controlled powered flight was 1903 with the Wright brothers. And then 66 years later, we put the first people on the moon. I mean, that if you'd ask people, say in 1900, what are the odds of, man landing on the moon, they would have said that's ridiculous. One thing that we can be quite certain of is that any predictions we make today for what the future will be like in 50 years will be wrong.
And as fast as iPhones became a normal part of our daily lives, I too see the quick approaching future of self-driving cars, medical advancements in surgeries, and regular spaceflight becoming a daily topic of our conversations. But don't get caught up on this future yet. As unpredictable as this pandemic has been, we can only glimpse into what the future might hold. And as it stands right now, economic powers that be will continue to fight for the future of control. But that control can only be as strong as the underlying economy. So if there's one thing I'm sure of, Xi Jinping is sitting in fear as they lose grip on the last 50-year boom they have experienced in manufacturing. I would love to know what you guys think about the ever-changing economy in that comment section below. Do you think China will reign supreme over the US, or will upcoming countries like India start playing a major role? And if you would like to advance your own personal knowledge on upcoming future trends, this episode was proudly brought to you by Passive Income Education. financialeducator.com, offering very specific knowledge in everything from the stock market to building websites and future trends on producing an income for yourself so you can be prepared and do not have to rely on the governments for your own outlook. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Consider slapping a like, stay cool, stay awesome, and I'll catch you tomorrow.